Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have random relationship questions, Q&A, scenarios and questions. Send it into writemac.com if you want me to answer one of these questions. I've been dealing with breakups for 5 years on this channel now, and primarily with people just sending in their stories, but people are starting to send in more situations, right? Which is good, because I think when you're in a breakup, it's a different situation, right? And the situation is you're at ground zero. There's a lot of emotions. You want some answers. And this is where I tell you to write out your story. But then there's some situations where they're a little bit smaller, a little less intense, and you want a quick hitter here. But I do recommend sending in your story if it's a breakup. So let's get into this today. B's on the mic also.
What's going on, guys?
And what's up, Sam Lujan? And we'll get into this in a moment. Hold on a sec here. Like I said, I encourage anyone to go ahead and put in the chat on the side here any questions that you have that you want answered. And that's just what we're going to focus on today. There's no story today. It's more situationships. All right. And this is really a good time if you've been wondering, should I do this? Is this right? Is that wrong? I just want to encourage people to understand something, that relationships aren't as simple as you think, or situations that are just like cut and dry that you did something wrong. A lot of times I deal with people and I reassure them that what you did wasn't so bad. Because I think you watch a video or you read some kind of blog and you're like, oh, I really messed up. Even if you did it another way, or the way the blog told you to do it, you still might not get it right. And that's okay. It might just not be meant to be. All right. So, oh, we got 2 people from Vegas on right now. What's the odds? No pun intended, right?
Yeah, no pun intended.
What's the odds? 2 people from Vegas. Oh my God, and born and raised. I don't think Roller Girl is born and raised there.
But she's there.
Actually, B, you lived in the great state of Nevada for a little while.
I did.
You had the honor of, you're a Renoite.
A Renoite, yeah, I guess so.
Which is a little different than Vegas, huh?
Yeah.
Do you like Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, I've only visited, just for having fun and stuff, going to casinos.
Vegas is like a 48-hour limit.
Yeah. They've got great restaurants. Yeah, I really do like that.
I don't know much about it. I've only been maybe 2 or 3 times, and this is going to sound crazy, but I've only been, I think, once since I've been over 21.
Oh, wow.
And I was 21.
So you can really enjoy it.
Yeah. It was 21. I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
It was 21. Mm-hmm. I was 21, and my friend was having his birthday there for his 21st. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of those ones I'm not really going to disclose all the details from that.
But stuff happened. It was fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. It was one of those things. Mm-hmm. Denny's tasted really good in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. There's been a few of those for sure. Yeah, we went for a friend of mine's 21st, which is kind of around my birthday. So it was, it was fun. I'll say that.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually, when I think back about that, I forgot all about that vacation. It was crazy, man. It was a good one, though. It was a good one. That's the only time I've done a lot of gambling and kind of did that whole, I don't know.
That whole scene.
What's that movie that was done there originally, that was done in Thailand later on?
Wait, it was done there and then Thailand. The Mechanic?
No, not The Mechanic.
That's the only one I know that's recent.
What's the movie where Mike Tyson has the tiger?
Oh,
Hangover. The first one, yeah, right? Okay. And then there was one in Thailand.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Great movie.
Great.
All right. So been in Vegas since 96. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
You got to really get used to the heat out there, man. Because I remember when I lived in San Diego, people would visit and they would say, I'd say, how is it living in Vegas? And they'd always go, it's hot. It's really hot.
And like I told you before, it can get cold too.
Right? It's hot. It's like, all right, it's extremely hot. But good value, I suppose. I remember there was a run on houses there for a while that it was a lot cheaper to live there.
My grandparents lived there.
Oh, really?
That's why I was there.
Vegas?
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
For 20 years.
Someone in the family liked casinos.
Oh yeah, I mean they're older. My grandparents, so
Grandparents aren't just always in the casinos.
Yeah, they are, dude. You need to be.
If you said bingo, maybe.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like playing slots. Yeah.
All right, let's get into questions. Go ahead and drop the first one, B.
All right, let me pull this one up. All right. Hey, coach, been dating here and there for the last few months since my last serious relationship, and I met a guy I really like. We've been going out for a little over a month, but I can tell he still loves his ex. Should I end this now? Is this just the wrong time to date this guy?
Man, that's long. Can you? That was a long one. Repeat that, please, if you don't mind.
Hey, coach, been dating here and there for the last few months since my last serious relationship, and I've met a guy I really like. We've been going out for a little over a month, but I can tell he still loves his ex. Should I end this now, or is this just the wrong time to date this guy?
Number one question, how do you know? Okay. Have you asked him that directly? If I was doing a coaching session, I'd ask you, like, what are the clues that you're getting here? Because you might just be assuming something, which isn't a good thing. I wouldn't necessarily end it if it's been good for a month. I mean, like I said, I would need to know more to the story. Is he visiting with his ex? Is he calling her? What's the extremes that he's doing? But if you feel like I said, if he's hanging out with his ex, if he's calling her while you're together or texting each other, then you got to set up your boundary and go, hey, look, that's going to be off limits. But the idea is this too. You've only been seeing each other a month. So what I would say is, are you official? And when you get to where you're official, then that's the time to have the discussion about the boundaries on his relationship with his ex. But don't just chalk it up like we're done, because it sounds like you're getting to know each other still, and he's leaving his options open, right? Because you didn't say they were together, right, B? They're dating.
Dating. Yeah.
So now that's another thing. People have told me before, oh, we're dating. And I always ask, like, what does that mean to you? Is that official? Because some people call dating, we're together.
Right.
Me, I wouldn't consider that girlfriend, boyfriend yet. You just say you're together, right? So that makes a difference on that. All right, next one.
So I think this happens quite a bit. I'm assuming it does, but this one says, my girlfriend leaves me on red quite a bit, and it really bothers me, but I don't want to make a big deal out of it or look needy. But to me, it's really disrespectful to do it all the time. Am I wrong about this?
Well, keep in mind, how busy is she? Does she work a 9-hour, 10-hour job? Is it one of those things where, what's her reason for it? Oh, I was at a red light, or I was at this. Also, if you're sitting there on bated breath on every message, it doesn't look good on your end. So if you're sitting there like, oh, you left me on red again. It's not gonna turn out well. It makes you needy, clingy. It's unattractive to the woman. The fact that she keeps doing it, are you exaggerating when you say that? Or is she just not into you as much as you are into her? I would just want to know the excuses or reasons. She was like, look, I'm at work. I can't answer you every time.
Stop texting me.
Right. Then she has you got to dissect the reasons. Do you believe her when she says, if you guys were broken up and she was just playing a game, that would be different. So sometimes people get really dramatic and they go, oh, all the time. How many times? Well, once this week. It's like, okay, not really. Right. All right. What's the next one?
Okay. Let's go. My friends and family all tell me my ex was really toxic for me, but I still want them back. I feel they're partially right about this, but I still want them. Am I crazy? How should I go about the relationship if they do come back? Friends with benefits, real relationship again? What's your take?
Friends and family say your ex is toxic. What do you believe? Number two, this is a reason why you don't give all the details about your ex or your partner to your friends and family, because your words can and will be used against you. Okay. So when you're like, I can't believe they just hate because, oh, well, do they know about when he broke your car window or did this or did that? Yeah, they have a reason. The question is, what do you believe? Come back to that. Is there reasons to believe that? Secondly, you're anticipating getting back together when it's not even a possibility. All right. So And define what's toxic. Toxic is this broad, big word that means so many different things. What does it mean to you? Right? And what are you scared of? What are you really scared of? Are you scared of getting back together with someone that you don't think is great for you, or the fact that your friends and family think they're not good for you? It's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
So what I look at sometimes is I say, consider the source, who's calling them toxic, and also ask yourself from a step back, if I was on the other end of this and this was my cousin's boyfriend or my sister's boyfriend, would I be telling them the same thing? It's a good way to look at it.
How would I react?
Remove your feelings from it. Yeah. Next.
Hey, coach, I really like this woman that I've been dating. One problem is the intimacy and the attraction are fairly low. I would say about a 6 if I had to put a number on it. Will this become a bigger problem as the relationship goes on?
Well, intimacy and attraction are fleeting, so those can go up or down depending on how she's dressed, how she feels. A 6 is not a horrible number. It's just how much you value intimacy and attraction. So there's guys out there that might say, oh, no, I just really value trust, connection, and the fact that my mother lives with us and she really takes care of my mom. There's some secondary gains outside of that. Now, if you're already having a problem with, our intimacy and attraction's a 6, I think it's going to get worse in the future because she already weighs a lot and has some bad eating habits. Then you're getting out in front of something getting worse. But you have to gauge that for yourself. Asking other people what they think about attraction and intimacy, they're just going to tell you what would work for them. So you have to gauge that yourself. But I would say, are her habits going to increase the intimacy in the future or increase your attraction in the future, or are they going to get worse? That's a good question to ask.
And if they get worse,
right,
what does that look like?
You're right. So those are things to keep in mind. If you're like, well, she does have some bad habits, she never exercises, she never, what's contributing to these lack of attraction? That's the thing about attraction. Okay. Looks. There's some work involved. Mm-hmm. This person's a natural. This person's a natural. Yeah, but they still need to do a few different things to make sure that they look good, right? All right. Next.
All right. The last one we have here is, this woman and I have been friends with benefits for a little over a year. Do you think this relationship can be more than that? In your experience, can this lead to a good thing, or is this even a bad idea to start?
Friends with benefits, I think, are great as long as you're the one that cares less. The one that cares less always rules the relationships. It's the same with friends with benefits. Just keep in mind, be honest with yourself. Are you settling? Let me put it this way. Are they the one that wants to be friends and you're the one that wants a relationship? Or are you the one that wants to be friends with benefits? Who's getting whose way? If it's you, then you win, right? Mm-hmm. Just keep in mind, over time, you're leaving the door open for them to leave too. So it's okay with me. Just know the rules of that game. That's all. There's no problem with it. But usually at the end of the day, someone gets left holding the bag. Someone ends up going, I'm starting to get feelings. I really want to go somewhere with this. And the other person goes, no, I kind of like it, friends with benefits. Because whoever settled for friends with benefit kind of loses. The person that wanted friends with benefit, they're holding their head high. They have other options. They feel good about it. And if it really works out, maybe I'll make you my girlfriend, right?
They're controlling the situation.
They're controlling the situation. And there's always one person in the friends with benefits that usually cares a little less or a lot less. And it's the same thing in a relationship.
Right.
If you can roll with that and it's comfortable for you, ideally, it would be one of those situations where it's a win-win, where you're like, oh, I don't want to be exclusive and you don't want to be exclusive. Just keep in mind, it has a shelf life. Over time, one of you probably will be. That's okay. Just be anticipating that.
Aware of it, yeah.
Right? And then if it's a true friend, and you care about the person, when things start to change, get your communication right. Let them know. Don't play games. Yeah. Next, is there anything else on deck?
That was all we had for right.
All right. So I had one more on an email.
I think we had
here.
an email going.
Yep. Should you block on social media? Does this affect no contact? Everything was fine with My girlfriend, about 5 months ago, we were talking every day, dating. It was very easy and fun. She was really into me. I started getting feelings and dropped my guard as soon as I did that. So this is interesting because you're saying it's a negative after it's a negative that you're getting feelings for a girl that you've been talking to every day and dating. That's part of the process. So if you start to get feelings and you feel like, oh, I let my guard down. I mean, at what point do you let your guard down? You're dating for 3 months.
Got to come down sometime.
Right. So slowly she started to pull away when noticed I asked her, what's up? She told me she couldn't handle a relationship this year. All right. So the scenario is timing and circumstances. You take it as, oh, I showed my feelings too much. Not necessarily. She just doesn't want to have a relationship right now. So I thanked her for everything left. But since I had feelings, had means past tense. Seeing her on social media bothered me. I wanted to do no contact. And I knew the less you do, the better. But I just felt like, well, you didn't. It is mentioned in captions here that you both are in university. And I'm just curious. If you go to the same school, it could be it's a little bit more difficult to just go no contact, but you'll do your best.
Yeah.
Or if you work together, I wanted to do no contact. I knew the less you do is the better. Well, I mean, no contact is either no contact or no contact. There's not less or more. Right. But I just felt like I had a blocker and all mutual friends from social media for peace in mind. Was this the move? Well, if it's for peace in mind, that sounds like really good intentions. Does it still work? No contact. If she doesn't want to have a relationship after 3 months and she said not this year, I don't know what it is to work. People do this all the time. Will it work? It's not that simple.
They're young too. She's young,
right? If you're in your 20s, it's not that simple. Like, is no contact gonna work? It's not like if you're baking a cake and someone said, would this flour work? You probably would say, yeah, it probably would work, but the cake won't be as good. I mean, you're doing no contact to move on, move forward, and for peace of mind. This idea that it's going to work, who knows? Just like you feel like you're going to be guilty about, oh, I caught feelings, so now I feel bad that I caught feelings. You said you were dating and talking every day.
More casual.
Right. So is this your best move right now? What's the alternative? Yeah, I would say no contact's fine in the situation right now where you're like, she doesn't want this and I want this, so just move on. But the idea that it's going to work, the way it works best is for you to do it for the peace of mind, not to get her back. Or did it remove a chance of rekindling? I would say you'd have to book a live coaching session. I have to get a little deeper on that. The main reason I blocked, even though I wanted her back, is an effort to move on, because at the end of the day, that's what I feel is right. Absolutely. Then if you're going to block and you're going to go into no contact to move on, it is the best move.
Well, it sounds like he's ready for a relationship, and she might just be ready to, be casual with people.
Right. People don't realize it's not personal all the time.
No.
And I think the worst thing that goes on right now is there's so many tactics and game online that people are teaching you how to approach women, especially like lines and masculine versus feminine. And there's a lot of truth to that. You still can do all those things correct, and the woman can say, I'm not in the mood, or I'm not attracted to you, or
the timing is wrong, or whatever.
I'm not wanting to get into a relationship. Right? I don't understand why all these people keep thinking, is this the right thing to do? It's like, well, the funny thing about like no contact or blocking, it might be the right thing to do, but it's still hard to do. So you keep looking for different answers. Right? Currently trying to get my floral design certification. I haven't heard of that. It sounds flowery. I hope you study that. Okay, so you guys are having a personal conversation. Rob IS, it's been a minute. I hope you're well, bud. Rye Flint, always on deck. Got a rival guardian at the gate here with Rye Flint here. All right, so we just went through these Q&As. They're pretty quick. Timing is always right when you like them. I do think I've been in situations in my life though where there's been a woman or a girl that I was dating that literally knocked your socks off. Total smoke show.
There we go. Smoke
Right.
show. She was a smoke show.
right? Or she's just a
Right.
like I could tell like, oh, this would be a
Mhm.
great girlfriend,
Sure.
and the timing wasn't right. Like
Mhm. There was
I didn't
just
want a
stuff-
relationship. Think about it like this too. Have you ever had where you came at like because there's all this stuff about monkey branching and rebounds, but there's a lot of times when people are like they meet someone and they're like, I just don't want a relationship right now. I've just been in a 6-year relationship.
I just want to.
And you meet someone and you're like, I could see her being a really good girlfriend. We can grow. I mean,
But she's just not
checks
there.
all the box. No, you're just in a situation where you're like, I don't
Or
want
you-
a relationship. I just got out of one.
Mhm.
That would be a situation where when you say like the time's always right when you really like them.
For one person. Maybe
Do you
not
think
for
that
you.
would be, I guess, where are you at in your personal life? Because there's so many people with mental health issues now, right? So even if people meet people at the right time, that's what comes up a lot in breakups now is that someone has depression, bipolar, like all these different things. And they even say it in the beginning of the relationship. And then by, month 3, month 6, month 8, that bubbles up. And like, they're like, oh man, I didn't know it was going to be this tough or this all over the place. So timing is always right when you like them, but there can be plenty of times where you look back. I'm sure everyone on this live stream right now can look back at one situation. I know I can look back at a few where you're like, dude, if the timing was right, I would have been in the situation I am now. Or especially because when you can look present moment, you're like, if I'm the person I am now, or I'm in the situation I am now financially or with my place or this or that, if I would have met her then, it would have been fireworks. It would have been
Mhm.
absolutely rose petals and wine glasses, right?
Mhm.
But timing and circumstances weren't there. Or you could just go, wow, she had a boyfriend then.
Yeah.
Maybe you were lying to yourself, right?
Well, then the timing was really bad. So
Me and B were talking about this earlier, that this would be a good topic actually, is that if you met someone and you could tell that you had some chemistry, you worked together or went to school together, and you know that she has a boyfriend and you've met the boyfriend and you can tell that she's not into the guy just by the way she kind of talks about him and the way she flirts with you, but you're not going to make a move. Is that the right thing to do, B?
to not make a move, yeah, I think that's a character. That's a character issue. If you, I don't know, I personally wouldn't want to just do that, but I don't know.
This is where timing and circumstances come in, because you're like, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. It's not me. And I'm not going to say I have a story about that where I'm like, oh yeah, but if the circumstances are right.
If you didn't have a boyfriend, yeah. But
No, let's just say that even though you have that boundary up, right? And you guys go to a work party or a university party or something like that, some things line up, you guys end up in a room together, then maybe you go, didn't mean for it to happen.
but it just happened.
So the timing and circumstances are right for that to happen. Someone says you're always in control. Some people say you're never in control. Have you ever seen that for a behaviorist?
No.
Yeah. There's Robert Soplosky. I always get his name wrong. Soplosky. He's a Stanford professor, human behavior, a bunch of different books. And he claims that you're never acting on free will.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
That's deep. I don't know. I have to really think about that.
I think what he means,
Mhm.
and I haven't listened to the whole lecture, is that you have so many situations that are leading to your decisions
Mhm.
that you don't know are there.
Mhm.
For red light, green light.
That are ultimately pushing you towards the direction.
Well,
that you're
you've been
going.
told enough times that red lights to stop, green lights to go.
Mhm.
Why do people go through red lights then sometimes?
Maybe they're crazy. I don't know.
They've gotten away with it. It was one.
Maybe, yeah.
They probably had someone in their family that went through red lights.
Mhm.
They probably saw on a TV show someone do it. But if everyone in the society was stopping at green, societies were much more follow their rules oriented because everyone around them did the same things. But if you look at societies now, there's a lot more people that have their own individual rules.
A lot more people. So yeah.
So he's just basically saying that your free will that you think you have is less than you think, because your prior experiences, your model of the world has already been built, which is how you make all your decisions.
So that model is guiding you.
Yeah.
Without you really knowing.
And you can kind of like, you can play with that and go, this is really interesting. When you look back at maybe even a decision you make in the present moment that's a bad habit. It's like, why do I want these donuts? Why do I really want these donuts? Well, your mind goes, Rolodex. And it's like, well, Dad used to bring home a dozen donuts when I was a kid. It was a special moment. It was this, that. It's like someone else that grew up with no donuts in Alaska in an igloo is going to look at the donuts and go, I don't know. I'm not sure. Someone might go, just try one. Right? They might say, no way, because I've seen a friend of mine throw up from a donut. See, you see what I'm saying? The mind's always finding connections of what to do and what not to do.
Or if you like choose not to take the donuts, like you're somebody that likes donuts.
But your decisions are always connected to what?
Past.
Kind of, right? Or your in your content consumption, your rules, your
experience.
It's pretty interesting. That's why I like hypnotherapy, because you drop the barriers and you can insert some new things. Yeah. But it's right. So now when you make a decision, you're like, why do I want to do that?
So now you have to make the opposite decision.
You don't have to make the opposite decision, but you can just figure where it comes from.
I'm just going to do the opposite of everything now.
And then you can realize that you don't just grab ideas out of the sky. It's pretty interesting. All right. Does anyone have any questions about their situations, or a question that's been burning inside of them?
Burning.
In relationship issues. What do you think? What do you think would be the number one question that I get over the last 5 years for breakups?
How do I get my ex to regret leaving me or breaking up with me?
I've gotten that a few times. You know what's funny about that? It's a very popular topic.
That's why
we talked about this before. Yeah. It's a very popular topic. But the funny thing in a coaching session, that I have to strain that out of people. Let me just ask you, like, really,
that's
seems like it's curtains here. It seems like you're really upset. Is what you really want is to make them, and you can kind of tell by the personality of the individual, and they'll be like, yeah. So they usually don't upfront tell them, because people don't like to show their cards on their dark side.
Right.
But I would say that's up there. Probably the number one. Anyone in the comments think that they can come up with the number one thing? And I would say it's probably a very close tie between three different things, but one
stands out a little more.
There's definitely a top four, though. You know, it's weird on your screen. The comments come up quicker, I think.
Really?
It's like it's a delay here where it's on the opposite. I don't think I've lived enough. Who has lived enough?
Who has? All right.
Been around the world. Number one, I would say, how do I get my ex back, right? But I would say a piggyback question to that, or a more common one would be like, what are my chances? Which is a totally loaded question. Like, what do you really think my chances are?
Right.
Now, the other one is, I want to write them a letter.
That You get that all
That's
the time.
top 5. Yeah, I want to write them a letter. They never say email or text too. They say letter,
in there.
which it's not going to be a letter, right? So letter, and they have like their reasons. And then the interesting thing is, if you were to write the letter, you probably shouldn't write the letter. You should probably get someone else to write it for you and like narrow it down, because what they do is they'll want to like sauce it up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time, you know, that we were on the beach and we laid on the towel together and we did this and we didn't like
Bring all these things in.
yeah, and like it puts a lot of different directions on it. It's a lot of times it's a guilt net.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I feel guilty, you should too. The letter's a big one. I'd say top 5 would be my birthday's coming up.
Should I contact them?
Should I contact them
Or
about their birthday? Or the big one is, and my birthday's coming up and I know they're not going to contact me.
Mhm.
But if they did, but I know they don't care. And it's always like, I always just think, wow, what a huge thing in society that we've put
Mhm.
so much weight on birthdays.
Right.
I'm sure other cultures haven't done this,
Mhm.
but this goes back to my point of what I just told you, B, how we connect things. And why do people think birthdays are such a big deal? Because since you were a little kid, they've been celebrated. You've gotten cards.
That's your special day.
But I've had friends from other cultures that like birthdays aren't a big deal.
And I personally, I'm like, not, I don't really care.
Well,
that
dude,
much.
the reason why you're like that is because you had a
Kind
gang
of.
fight at a Roladium. You told me about that. I asked you right away too. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
did you have a bad situation at a
Yeah.
birthday party?
Mhm.
And your face was like frightened. Your hand was shaking when I asked the question.
The only thing I'm
You were
saying,
bright red about it
but
right
the
now.
only thing I'm saying about that is I honestly can't like look back and think of like if I thought it was like a cool thing that happened, like it was a crazy story at the time, or if I was like really like shaken about it. Do you know what I mean?
You never celebrated
No,
a birthday since then.
But I was like, I don't know if that was just me.
You
like,
were
in
locked
general.
in a safe room in a Roladium.
Yeah, maybe it was a bad thing. Now that I think about it, yeah.
In a Roladium while there was a
Mhm.
big brawl. It was a gang fight?
Yeah.
Was there guns?
No guns. I don't know if there were like knives or anything, but there was some stuff that went down. I think I talked about it in a live stream before.
If you were older, would you have made a citizen's arrest?
Hell no.
Have you ever seen that before?
That would have gotten my ass out of there.
I'm going to make a citizen's arrest.
No.
Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah, but no, that would not be happening.
This is a citizen's arrest.
That would not be happening.
But that associates that you did come up with something that was like, yeah, I did have a bad birthday one time.
Mhm. But I think, what, I also had, other like birthdays when I was young too. So I don't know. Maybe that does probably play into it. I don't know. But you're probably right.
There's a lot of weight on birthdays though. Like the idea is like, and I remember being in the bad breakup I was in years back, that like my birthday was actually like 5 days after we broke up. It was like 5 days later. Someone would be like, oh, that's so messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I had another breakup that it was on my birthday.
On your birthday?
At birthday dinner. Yeah.
They waited until
At the dinner.
Okay.
At the dinner, yeah.
Wow.
See my smile? So it wasn't like I was like so upset about it.
No.
I look back on it and I'm like, it had to happen. I
Right.
understand why, and it's okay. But
Mhm.
I didn't put extra sauce on it because I thought,
Mhm.
oh my God, on my birthday,
You broke up.
at dinner. It was kind of one of those things. It was inevitable. It was knocking at the door.
Mhm. Wasn't a surprise.
But it also gave me a reason, because that particular relationship, we had broken up maybe once or twice before and gotten back together. To be honest, I felt bad,
Mm.
but I also, so
Pity.
this gave me a reason, like, you know what?
All right.
Like, you brought this up now, but I felt mutual about it.
Mhm.
Like, I felt like, you know what, we should.
Mhm.
Was it good timing? No. But when is it? You know what I remember about it too was that I haven't talked about this one very much.
Mhm.
Was that I knew the chef. It was like a nice restaurant,
Mhm.
and I knew the chef at the restaurant, and he was a cool dude. And I'd eaten at that restaurant before, and he liked to come. He was one of those like
You went
chefs
to the
that likes to
table.
come over.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Yeah.
What's up, Mac? How have you been? Da, 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 like.
Yeah.
And so he came over to the table, and my girlfriend of the time, or whatever you want to
Soon-to-be
call it,
ex,
right, was
right?
crying. It's like, oh, on top of that, it's a complete awkward
Right.
situation, right?
Right.
He could sense it, but he
Of
came
course,
he
yeah.
came over. And you know what's crazy about that is I never do well if a woman's crying, and I've had a few
You
girlfriends
feel-
cry for various things. I'm not going to get into like,
Sure. Why?
well, tell me why.
Yeah.
Every situation,
Mhm.
you know, crying about different things in a relationship or
Mhm.
something like that. It's always a soft spot for myself.
I heard that one story where you were sitting on a bench or something. You were saying that one.
That one was different because it
That's
wasn't.
crazy. That's crazy.
You remember that
Yeah,
story?
and people
Oh,
were like
man.
wanting to like. That's crazy.
I can go on for 20
Right.
hours. Yeah, the park bench in Boston.
Yes.
Oh fuck. She's crying like hysterically, and the sick part about it was, all right, I'll tell the story. If you guys are all, if someone throws 100 on the super chat, I'll tell the story. It's a good one. Rob's like, I've probably heard this one before.
A few times.
So
it was awkward with that guy. The chef came back.
yeah, he came back over and he's like, everything all right, man? What's up?
Mhm.
He's kind of a hyper guy, and I was
Mhm.
like, he's one of those too. Like when I'd go there, he'd give you something extra or something like that. It was like I said,
Yeah, he's a friend.
and it was just like, damn. Because when you, as a man, when the girl's crying, the reflex for most people is like, fucking asshole.
What did you do?
Yeah, you know
What
what
the
I
fuck did
mean?
you do?
Don't you feel like that? Like,
Yeah,
what'd you
bit,
say
yeah.
to her, man? Like, what's going? Like, there's so many variables
Mhm.
going on that someone can go like, oh yeah, I know. What'd he say to you, hun? Or you know, like, and you're just like, actually,
Are you okay? Are you? What did he do? Are you okay?
I didn't do anything. We're just having a bad situation. There's nothing worse than a public crying girlfriend, and you're sitting there like, and you don't have that emotion, and you're sitting there like, really, right now? Come on. But yeah, that park bench story was that was a tough one. The whole, well, like I said, it's redundant because Rob's probably heard it before. But I went out. This is I was like 19 or 20. I went out to Boston. I was talking to this girl,
Mhm.
and the ironic thing is, this is how old I am. The internet was in the stage.
Right.
We knew each other before that, and we had been texting each other through that. That's before you had text on phones.
Oh, was it what was that? Like MSN Messenger
Yeah,
or
this
something?
is like-
something like that.
the year 2000,
Okay.
right?
Early.
Maybe 99 or the
Okay.
year 2000,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
And I was like, so when she was in Boston, like I said, there was no text.
Right.
We were talking on the computer off and on like that, but we knew each other before. Like we had hung out before. She'd been to my house and we had mutual friends. She just went away for college, and then she invited me out over there.
Mhm.
And the ironic thing is, when it rains, it pours. So at this very time, I think I was 19, I was dating and seeing a girl that ended up being my girlfriend like 3 months later.
Mhm.
So before I left, I was dating this girl. I was spinning plates before the term spinning plates came out.
Right.
And I'm not saying I was a pickup artist or anything like that. I
You
was just
said-
seeing. And by the way, the girl I was seeing maybe was seeing multiple guys too. I don't know. Right.
It was. I mean, you guys were just
Right.
talking.
Right. So I was seeing someone
Yeah.
before I left, but we weren't official.
Right.
Like it was just started. So that girl had invited me out for a week to Boston,
Okay.
and just to stay with her. Like, so I was like, all right, I'll get the ticket, whatever. I'm going to stay with you. I'd like to see Boston. She lived around the corner from Fenway. I thought that'd be cool.
That's cool.
Total disaster, dude.
Not cool.
Just never put yourself in a situation where you're going to stay with an individual,
Mhm.
maybe even like one of your friends that you don't know,
That
and you're going
well,
to
right.
stay at their place.
Mhm.
Give yourself the option that you have a
There's no
safe
outs.
house.
There's no outs to go.
Yeah, and I didn't have a lot of at the time. I didn't have a lot of extra money, and it wasn't a time when you could go on your phone and get deals.
Let me book.
I
this
would have had to
hotel
go to
over here.
hotels and like roll up on them and stuff. Oh my god, the story of that week was unforgettable, man. That was like a life
So
lesson.
you were locked in. You were locked.
The first
in.
night was fine, like we got along well and all that stuff, and then like some weird stuff happened afterwards, and it just transpired to like
What did I get myself into?
it was a. she had some depression and some
Mhm.
other things going on, and this was like in 99 and 2000. You don't really talk about those
So it
things.
wasn't like being labeled. at the
Yeah,
time.
I've been seeing my therapist. I didn't even know what to make of that. I was like, what? Okay. It's like,
And you're 19 too.
yeah, I
mean,
was like,
Jesus.
whoa, dude, you know?
Right.
And then I think a big one that threw me off was she had a hamster. I tell you that story?
I'm starting to remember the hamster. Yeah.
Did I tell you that before? And we were in bed and she was like, let the hamster loose in the bed. And she was like, oh, don't worry about Stewie. And I was like, I don't want to play. I don't want to play like that. Like like
Like the hamster.
can you put him back in the cage and stuff? And she's like, oh, pet him. You can hold him. I'm like, I don't really want to pet the hamster. She's like, if he bites, it just draws a little bit of blood. And I was like, I got kind of serious, you know, like, can you put it away in the cage?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, and she was like, come on, you know, it's like little Petey bird from Dumb and Dumber, you know,
Dumber.
you know, it's like, and
Oh, yeah.
in the moment I was just like, can you put him in the cage? I just want to lay in the bed. I don't want to mess around with the hamster out here. And the hamster had a little set of teeth on him, kind of like mine. Right. And it was like one of those things,
Yeah.
like, come on,
Mhm.
what's the big deal? And it's like, I don't want to play like that. Like, I don't think that's fun. And I'm a pretty fun person. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty laid back. I like pets. Hamster's not on the list.
But the hamster wasn't high up on your
No,
list.
I've always been a dog person personally. You know?
Right.
So like if she had a little dog and she wanted to put him on the end of the bed or something, I would have been fine.
Chill,
But like
totally cool.
throwing a hamster in the bed, like letting him loose and like, come on, pet him, hold him. No, I don't want to. Thanks. It's okay. What's your problem? I don't have a problem. I
So
just
that
don't want
was
to
a-
play with hamsters when I'm
so
in my boxers in bed, dude. It's fucking dangerous.
so that became a serious like thing. Like she was upset.
No, it was just like
She
one.
was upset that
I
you
was like,
didn't wanna,
it was
like,
like
have him
one
run around.
strike. It was an awkward thing. Because like I said, I would handle it better now.
You'd let
But
him-
in the moment, I was like, what the hell? Like
You
I was
let her
all
run
up,
around.
I was all uptight. No, I wouldn't let her run around now. I was just uptight. I was just uptight about
Right,
it.
yeah.
I'd just be like, hey, come on, put the hamster away.
Mhm.
You know, like I would be cooler about it. I was like
Mhm.
all uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that happened next was the next day, just being a guy, like I rinsed out a drinking glass, I think from milk or something. I forgot what it was in the morning. And she just was like, did you use soap? Did you use soap on the glass? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Usually when I rinse out glasses, I don't use soap. And she just was like, what? Why would you just put it back with no? And I was like, sorry. Like it didn't like,
It wasn't.
I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was up. And
Right.
she just like, oh my God. Like you put back two glasses in a bowl. And I'm like, usually when I eat my cereal,
Yeah.
I just rinse it out with water.
Well, you were already rude to her hamster,
you-
so I mean, she had that
Just
already.
just flipped out. Like she flipped out on that
Mhm.
that the cleaning the bowls that way. And I just went out. I remember I just went for a walk around Fenway, actually. I just was like, I'm going to go out for a walk.
Right.
A young coach was born. This is the start of the movie.
The start of the movie.
I had so much to learn, right?
Was
And
it
it-
a good walk around?
Oh,
Fenway?
dude, there's more stories that week. Holy shit. Man, dude. Could be an after school special. I mean, it was like from that point on, it just got more and more. She was just one, like I said, about the rinsing out the cups or whatever.
So did you stay a full week then? You stayed a full week?
I stayed a full week and I stayed at her house. And all right, so we can go through the whole thing because you're enjoying this, huh?
Dude, I don't think I've heard the whole thing.
It's good. It's a good one. I like
Yeah.
telling stories like this. Actually, I had forgot about it. So there's so many ironies in this because one of my really good friends, it ended up being his girlfriend for like 3 years.
Later on.
So this
down
is
the
like
line,
why I
okay.
wouldn't discuss this because
Mhm.
like out of respect
Sure.
for him, he would know.
Right. Some of the yeah.
Yeah, right.
Information, right.
And so the next thing that happened, I'm trying to put this into sequence here. Like it was awkward after that.
Those few things.
You washed the bowl wrong, right? Would anyone get triggered off of that? By the way, do you have to use soap on all your glasses or bowls when you eat?
Like if it's just
cereal or a milk or something?
I do, but I mean, I don't think I'd
You use
trip.
soap?
Yeah, I don't think I would
mean,
trip if somebody didn't. I don't know.
Like I said, at the time, I was like, I grew up with a dishwasher. She had an
Yeah, that's what
apartment,
I mean.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where
We
we had an old dishwasher or something like that. So you'd put it in there. But anyways, getting off that topic, she flipped on that way overboard, caught me totally off guard. I was like, just want to leave now, but I got 4 more days on deck. So we went and met our friends. Like we did some different things, and it was just awkward from that moment on. And then we went out to a dinner, and then her friend brought another guy that was from New York. What's up? What's this kid's name? What the fuck you doing here, man? Like he was just on edge. He was older too. He was like in his 30s. He had a Benz. He worked at the New York Stock Exchange, supposedly. He was a hot shot, right? And I was like 19, like my first trip out of California.
Couch
like,
surfing.
hey, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like looking back, it was like
Right.
this guy was cool, man, like in his own world, but I thought he was a dick, to be honest. So we all went out to eat, and I always talk about spilling a drink, right? I spilled a drink at the table. Then it was sushi. I didn't know how to use fucking chopsticks at the time. So that was awkward because I was like, I didn't grow up eating sushi.
So you're trying to get the piece of fish, and it's
Yeah,
just
and
not
everyone
working.
else there was like, oh, sushi. Yeah, oh, sushi. It's like, you're going to use your fork, man? It's like, fuck. None of them are my friends.
Right.
None of them are like people I hang out with. So it's awkward already. And it's like really uncomfortable. Like looking back, I was like really uncomfortable. Then I knocked over the drink, and the guy from New York was like, fuck.
Who's this guy?
This kid's a wreck. You all right, bud? And he's like looking over. He's like, fuck, man. And I just remember feeling like uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
If that was me now, I can use chopsticks like,
Like anybody.
like someone that's lived in Asia for 10 years, okay? So and if I knocked over a drink, I'd be like, sorry, excuse me. Like it would be totally fine, right? But I would just remember like feeling so fucking embarrassed.
Yeah, I mean, as a 19-year-old,
But also what you don't realize is like I was with her and we weren't together. We only knew each other like a little bit. And then they were like, "Oh, let's go out to this club, or this place or something like that." And she was like, "Mac doesn't dance." And I was like, I wasn't excited about it,
right? But you were like down to go.
but I wasn't going to like ruin the trip for everyone, right? I wasn't going to, and we never had a discussion where it was like, oh, Mac, like
She was
Mac
already putting this on you.
I know Mac doesn't like dancing. I was like I said, part of me was like, yeah, no, I don't really want to go do this, but I'll go. I'll go have a few drinks and like we'll figure it out or whatever. I think actually, if I think about it, probably wouldn't have been able to get in anyways because I was 19 or 20. But I just remember her going, yeah, he doesn't dance. He doesn't like to dance.
And you're like,
And like the face that she made when she looked at me was like,
and you're like
to the
"What?
group, and they're like, oh, you don't like to dance? It's like, oh God.
You can't use chopsticks and you don't know how to dance, man.
Yeah, dude. So it was just really uncomfortable. Then, like, we hung out, and I remember hanging out with one of the friends, and the friend I could tell kind of liked me, not in the way that like she was gonna hook up, but like we got on well and stuff like that. And that was fine. So that night slept there, and it was just awkward from there. And then yeah, I'm gonna tell you the whole story. So
All right.
there were so many things there in that 5 days. So then Rob throws an LOL. Thanks, Rob. I just want to make sure I got everyone's attention here.
But you were solo on this.
I went solo. I just went out there. Like I said, I knew her.
Right.
We weren't full on or anything like that before I went out there. It was just, I knew her and I was like, okay, that'll be cool. I have a place to stay. It's Boston. So then that night or the next night, we were walking back home, and I don't know what happened, but like I said, looking back, I was way more uptight. Like I would have been like, whatever.
I mean, the hamster,
Yeah, like I would have been able to handle. I would have just found another hotel.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I would have.
Right.
I would have figured it out. Like I would have been fine. So on the way home from that night, and this was something else that was new to me. Being from Cali, we don't take the subway, so everything was walking in the subway. And it's like totally fine with the walking. I've always been in pretty good shape. So it wasn't like I was huffing and puffing or,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Because some people could be like, because there were long walks, but we were walking together. And so that was kind of foreign to me. So we came out of the subway. And then, like I said, I don't know, we stopped at this like park bench to talk. And I remember just being like, I don't have another place to go right now. Right. So like, but like my tone and everything was like irritated, upset, non-emotional. And she just like crashed and was like,
she broke down.
Sometimes I'm just mean to people. Sometimes I don't know why. I'm just mean. I'm sorry. And I'm sitting at the park bench. I'm like,
where did this come from?
Yeah, no, I'm sitting there. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I don't know what to do. Right. So, like I said, there's people walking by. It's like it's Boston, 1 out of 3 are college students. And this was in a college area. So there's
a lot of people walking around. Yeah.
Guys are like staring me down. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. Right.
Yeah.
I've never been around something like this before. Right. So I was like, all right, it's okay. You know, like, it's all right. It's going to get, you know, like, it's okay. And then I found myself briefly like, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, you know, because I've never dealt with this before. I've never had a
situation. Yeah.
This is why I always tell people too, like mental health people, you never been there before. I didn't have a whole lot. You know, I've had some dark times in my life, but I never had like, I'm going to break down on a park bench over some, the stuff was minor. Right.
Right.
So we ended up back at the house and we had like, we're like, okay, when we enter her place, we're fine.
No drama. Just,
yeah. Like, well, I mean, she got her cry out and now me knowing emotions, like you need to get that up if you have a problem. Right. Like, so she got that all out. There's only so much crying you can do.
Right.
And like I said, I was just confused. Like, what is this? What's the crying about? I'm the one that looked like the fucking ass at dinner. You know what I mean? I'm the one that doesn't know any of your friends and I don't have a way out. Like, I don't have anyone I can stay with here. I'm not willing to just go hotel surf.
Yeah.
Like I said, at the time, I didn't have a lot of extra money. Like, to me, to go get like $100 hotel room in Boston was like, no. Right. So, like I said, this is before, if you can put this in context, in 2001, you didn't just have the internet on your phone and you could just go pick up places. It wasn't that simple. So
you were stuck pretty much.
Yeah. I was uncomfortable. I was just like, damn, dude. Not to mention like another night with the hamster that was on, you know what I mean? Come home to that. So then like that night, I think it was okay. It was just awkward. And the next day we hung out, went somewhere, made the best of it. Then we were at like a shopping mall and some guy knew her. And I remember the guy had like fucking Birkenstocks. He had like Birkenstocks. You know what Birkenstocks are?
Shoes, they're kind of like,
look like barbarian sandals.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He had like Birkenstocks and like looked like he went to Harvard. And he comes up and he's like, oh, hey, what's up? And he's like talking to her. They both just ignored me. I'm just sitting on the side like,
right. So
I go like leave to like look around the mall a little bit, you know, totally fine. Because I'm not one of those like, hey, you ignored me. At this point, it's like, it's dust. I'm just going to finish out the trip strong. Don't need any extra attention. I'm cool. And by the way, I was talking to 2 girls before I left. I'm not telling her that, but I'm just saying that like, I felt okay. I wasn't like, oh my God. Right. So that she's talking to this guy. I come back over and the guy like kind of looks at me. They both continue to ignore me. Never got introduced. Right. Even if we're not together, nothing's going to happen.
This is polite.
Yeah. Like, oh, this is Mac. Okay. Sure. And the guy was kind of like, you could tell the guy liked her the way he was acting, even though he was a little queef. He was like, you know, so that was awkward. Made the best of it. Whatever. Like I said, if that was me, I would just leave. Right. So then I thought, that's a little fucked up the way that went down, but it's okay.
Mhm.
Totally fine. So when we get back to the apartment, it was awkward, a little, like, so I had a friend, because I had 2 nights left on my trip. I had a friend that was living is Seton Hall in New Jersey or New York? I think it's in Jersey.
I think it's New Jersey.
Seton Hall is in New Jersey.
From
She
just
lived in
from
New Jersey.
basketball.
Good friend from high school. And she was like, you got to come visit me. You got to come visit me.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, female,
Okay. I'm
female,
in.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like, we were really cool.
Mhm.
And I was like, I wouldn't even know how to get there. Like from Boston. She's like,
Boston
that's not
to
that
New
far.
Jersey.
Da, da, da. So I was talking to her on the phone out in front of this girl's apartment. And this apartment, just to put it in context, was one of those, we don't really have them in California as much, but an old house that had different rooms. Like
Okay,
a tenancy in common kind of
Yeah,
a thing.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't
Do you
like
have,
a
like, a
traditional
shared-
apartment.
You have a shared like common area.
So she was like on the top floor and there was like a little like hallway out in front of her door. So I was just sitting in there on the phone talking out there. And we're talking. And then she's like, how are things going? I'm like, oh, like I started saying like, oh, it's been bad a little bit. It's been awkward. I maybe said a couple things. I don't remember exactly the details I gave.
Something along those lines. Though.
And then this is like the climax of the fucking movie, right? She fucking, I was on the phone for like 10 minutes. She's like, I come back in and she's like, were you talking shit about me in my own home? Da, 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 da. You, da, 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 da. And I was like, so she listened to my phone conversation. Yeah, at the door. And I remember like looking back, I remember being like, yeah, it's been bad. Like whispering, like I was the abused victim out in front.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would like to come over there. I just don't have.
How do I get there? Like,
yeah, like I said, it was before you have internet on your phone. I didn't have a lot of extra funds at the time. It just wasn't going to happen. Probably, I only had 2 days left. But it was nice to talk to someone that liked me.
All this went down in the first like 3 days.
Yeah, well, it's 24 hours too a day because it wasn't like I was working or anything, right? And she had time off or something. So like the worst part of that is you guys are stuck together. Yeah, when I came back in, she's like throwing fucking pillows and shit. And I was just like, what the hell? And she's like, you're going to talk about me? Like, I'm not even there. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I was just at the mall and you know what I mean? I don't remember doing that though. I didn't bring up all her stuff because at this point, I was like, this watch isn't ticking correctly. Like, I'm not going to make sense of this, So I just kind of was like, I don't want the police coming here and getting accused of something because this is the kind of idiot that would be like, oh yeah, I felt, and I didn't do anything. So I came back in the house and I'm like, I remember being like, look, because it was like 12 o'clock or something at that point. After she like petting her fucking hamster like this, I'm like, look, this is when a young coach was born, man. I go, look, I'm sorry. You're right. I shouldn't have been. I did mention a few things outside, and you're right. It is your place. And you know what? I'm leaving. I think it was 2 days left or 1 day left. I don't know what it was. I go, but I don't have anywhere else to go, and I'm not going to go get a hotel room. And I ended up sleeping on the floor
in her room.
Yeah, it was a studio apartment.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Right.
No problem.
And I just remember going to bed, like thinking like, or going to the floor, just going like this is what do I have? Where do I have to go? Right. Like I said, now you could probably find a room. You could find a grab. I could get out of there.
Go see that girl at Seton Hall.
I didn't have the extra money to go do that. Like I was 19. I was like, I had like $1,000 in my account, right? $800. Right. If you told me I was going to have to drop like $200 or $300, it would have been a stretch for me at that point 20 years ago. Right. And I didn't even have a credit card because a lot of people do that when they're young. They just credit card it. But yeah, that was
definitely.
It's crazy, man. Being on the floor though, I was sitting there and I was just like
contemplating
thinking
things.
back, when you're around people like that, it's
Mhm.
like contagious. Their nervous, crazy
The
energy.
energy that they,
Because you're like, why are you getting up? I remember thinking like, why are you getting so fucking upset? Like, why are you
Mhm.
getting so amped up? I can get upset.
Mhm.
You've known me for a while. I can get pissed,
Mhm.
but not like emotionally.
Yeah.
It's like,
I just think that the disrespect to the hamster initially was
you like that
just,
part of it, huh?
that's just what set it off. And I mean, that's what, you know, that's
It's
what
like
it was at.
you like when I said I like pets, but dodge an 05 caliber bullet there. I never felt threatened
Mhm.
or anything like that. I just
Until she
that
was
was my
screaming.
first situation because I remember in the beginning when I said that she's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I've had issue." I don't think she called it depression because, like I said, you guys got to keep in mind this is like 21 years ago.
Mhm.
The world was like a much different place. Like everyone wasn't on therapy or on pharmaceuticals for their issues. Really wasn't. If you think about it, right? Where now everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I have a therapist," ha ha ha, or something like that. So to me, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And then when I saw the week, I'm like, "Holy shit!" And then when I came home, everyone's like, "Oh, like, did you guys hook up? What happened?" I'm like, "Nope." You're lying, bro. You're lying. I'm like, "No, dude, I'm not lying." You're lying, dude. Come on. Seriously, you were there for a week, and I was like, "Nope."
Shit went down.
And then when I told the details, everyone was like, "Whoa, whoa," like they're like, "But you didn't hook up." I'm like, and I'm happy I didn't, dude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, and by the way, we've talked about this before, but I've never in my life lied
Mhm.
about hooking up.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, I've had friends, and I'm like, fucking liar.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Guys
especially when
did
you're
that.
young.
Guys did
Especially
that when they
you're
were young. But I remember though, thinking back, like, and they were all like, what? And I remember one of her friends, who was like a mutual person I knew that we weren't close, they weren't surprised. They weren't.
Like this wasn't like out of character or anything like that. Wow.
You know what I mean? Like they weren't.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, thanks for the warning. Thanks for the fucking warning,
A
huh?
little heads up would have been nice.
Yeah, because in my head I was like, I could tell, like you'd think that they would be like, oh,
I would still
like
clear the hamster.
I no, but I just remember like one of them asked like, oh, I know you guys. I think one of them asked like, oh yeah, you and so because I don't want to say her name. You guys have a history. I'm like, we don't have any history. I stayed there. It was a disaster. It was bad. And the friend looked at me, and then and she kind of just knew, right? No offense to Birkenstock people, because I know Birkenstocks are in right now.
Dude, he's right. That's what he was all about. He was all about the hamster. That's why he had that in.
It was one of those things, though. Like looking back, this is where you go, I don't want to be 21 again and not take my wisdom with me. That's my quote, by the way, for all the quotes that are recycled. If I can go back to that spot with all my wisdom, it would be fun. It would probably, I would say goodbye really quickly.
Mhm.
Probably would have went over to Seton Hall and visited my other
That's what
friend.
I'm saying.
That the Birkenstock queef guy, it didn't really bother me.
Well, you were already at a point to where it wasn't.
I'm not.
Yeah.
It didn't really bother me because I was like,
Sure.
whatever. It was rude. It was awkward because
Mhm.
in my head, it's like I gotta wait for you because we're going back to the house together, and you didn't even introduce me to this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was a classic.
Those trips like that, I mean, it's a gamble because if it doesn't work out,
Well,
or
someone had
something
asked
like
me that.
happens-
Ironically, someone had
Mhm.
asked me that in a. They sent it in a story form, but they said that they had been talking to a girl online,
Mhm.
and they were going to meet up.
They've never met.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I've met
knew
her
her- you knew
before,
her,
and we
right.
had mutual friends, so
Right.
it wasn't like
But you
that.
weren't really close or anything.
We weren't that close, yeah. And I said, go ahead and meet her. Just make sure you have an alternate. Like, don't plan
Mhm.
on just staying at her place
Mhm.
because you want to save money or something.
Right.
Make sure you got your own crib to stay at or a friend's place. Don't depend on that. You're putting yourself in a really bad position if you do that.
Mhm.
And I know because it happened to me.
Right.
Like I said, you look back on those things, and that goes back to that free will thing. It's like the idea that, oh my God, I can't believe you you didn't use soap on the dish or something before I left.
Mhm.
It's like, well, in my house, the guys don't do the dishes when I grew up. So someone else might go, oh my God, really? Yep. Guilty. It's like
That's just how it was.
growing up, it was like put the plates on the sink and mom puts them away in the dishwasher. It cleans everything. And I've met other people that are like, that's how my house was. Not everyone, right?
Mhm.
So I wasn't an experienced dishwasher at that point in my life. And when I'd want to drink, I just, rinse it out and put it away. And actually, to be honest with you guys, sometimes you're at people's houses and they over soap the glasses and you get a glass of water and there's fucking bubbles at the top. That's dish soap from some OCD dishwasher. And now you're drinking dish soap.
It's just like lemon flavoring.
You do that, huh?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened for sure. I've seen
Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah.
And you're like, what are those bubbles? Newsflash. That's actually soap.
You mean that's not just from
The rainbow ones? Yeah. So you got a nice little head of dish soap. That's one of the reasons, so if I was to explain that, I'd be like, look, do you know that how much dish soap you're consuming when you do that?
Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'll rinse it with water, but I overusing soap all the time. You know what that goes with too? Again, this is how you were. And by the way, everyone's going, wow, you don't really wash your dishes well. All right, guys. Right? Everyone's going, wow, I didn't know that about you, right? Like, you don't even use soap on any of your dishes. Let me just fucking clarify it really quick. Because Brian Uni just jumps in. I rinse a glass before I even use it, Mac, with water, right?
I'm gonna have to start doing that now, man.
No, the real story is this. I don't really like doing dishes. So I've always had a girlfriend that usually does the dishes, but when I have a glass of water, I will generally just rinse it with water. If it's my glass. Now here's the thing, folks, that are going, oh my God. I haven't had a full family or I usually have lived alone or had a girlfriend that I lived with. So it's not like we're sharing heebie-jeebies with everyone in the room,
They're
right?
your heebie-jeebies.
Or even when I've had roommates, I don't know why I'm looking back and I'm thinking those were my glasses and those are your glasses or something.
You had separate.
You'd have a glass that's your glass.
Like your 49er glass or something.
But I mean, I literally remember being with roommates and we only had water in the fridge. We wouldn't have a bunch of different kind of drinks.
Yeah, we usually had in college days water or milk. That was pretty much it.
And Brian, that's totally fine. My ex don't like doing the dishes, so she cooked and I did the dishes. LOL, I'm OCD about it.
OCD about it.
Totally fine. Like someone else, oh, the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
the masculine, feminine. Oh no, that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had a girlfriend. I remember the first time we were together and everything. Not the first time we were together, but she was going to make this special dinner, and she was like, we had been together for 2 or 3 months, I don't know, but we had ate out a lot because I had a studio apartment with no kitchen. And we were staying somewhere else, and we had this kitchen, and she was like, I'm going to make this, and da-da-da. And then she's like, when she got done, she's like, all right, you're going to do all the dishes. And I'm like, that wasn't part of the deal. That wasn't a deal that I ever made. In the back of my head, I'm like, this is a red flag for me.
You never signed that contract.
Hell no. And I was in the back of my head, she's like, well, my ex used to do that. Double red flag. Right? It's but if you're when Brian says that, I'm like, totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just putting context of why in my head.
Why that happened.
Isn't it funny how people get worked up over something that there isn't one way to do it?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't like change, they like their way to do it.
I had that same ex-girlfriend was really meticulous, and she would do laundry because she grew up having to do the family's laundry, and she would iron everything except for towels, maybe. Right? And she would put the clothes back in my closet and line them up in a way that they were all even, so it was folded.
Yeah.
And then
It's perfect.
me being a guy would be like, eh. And like, so the
Wait, just to fuck with?
so the
Just-
pair of shorts that were underneath like might be kind of messy afterwards.
Yeah, like you didn't.
Yeah. And I remember one time she sat me down. She's like, can you please consider how much time I put into the laundry? I'm folding each one. And I was like, no problem.
Yeah.
I'll make sure. Don't worry. But that's a reflex thing. And I appreciate it. It's just, to me, I was like, oh, it's good enough that you folded it and put it in there. If there's one that's like off a little bit, don't worry about it. It's okay. No. You know why? Because she grew up, her mom was like, you gotta do it a certain way.
About it, yeah.
Crazy. This is how we come to those kinds of things, though.
Mhm.
But yeah, started out with some Q&A and went into my like, let's see.
It's a great story, though. Come on, that's a great story.
You like that one, huh?
Hell yeah, it's
funny, man. That could be a Rob Snyder movie.
I think we might have to pitch it.
I just saw him interviewed by. He's from the Bay Area. Did you know that?
Yeah,
I think he's from South City.
Yeah.
I just saw him interviewed recently, and it was funny because Bill Maher, I told you, is doing these podcasts, and in the YouTube videos, it's so different seeing Bill Maher interviewing some of these people like Jimmy Kimmel, some pretty big names, right? But they're smoking weed, they're drinking. I don't think all the guests are, because he's sitting there smoking weed.
Yeah.
Or so it's
having a drink.
Yeah, having a drink. And the way they're acting is not how they act on camera as much. It's almost like they're having a private conversation.
Like they let their guard down.
Yeah. It's not, it just shows you how much other stuff is staged.
Oh yeah. Like,
and what's funny about it is Bill Maher keeps bringing up beefs. So like he'll, not beefs, but like, well, tell me about this. And like Rob Snyder's like, I don't even know who this other comedian is. Something Prescott. I forgot what it was. And he's like, he just shit on me in his book. So we don't really talk anymore, but I have like all this insecurity comes out and you're like, this is a star, you know, like this insecurity about like this other comedian said all these bad things about me. And you're like, wow.
Well, probably in that world too, like when somebody says something, it might damage your like future, you know, business, you know, whatever you're doing, you know, movies or something. I don't know.
How about when I pulled up that rant of that guy on Valuetainment?
Oh my God. Yeah.
That was an example where I was like,
Adam?
God, yeah, like Adam Carolla. No, that's not Adam Carolla. I don't know his Sosnick, I think.
Yeah.
But, and I like the guy that runs the show that's his friend and he just lets him go.
Well, yeah,
make a fool out of
because he's all about having good content, and that was pretty good content.
Stay with me, little butterfly.
Oh, he'll throw his friend under.
Oh my goodness,
for
man.
a good video, no problem.
Have you ever witnessed that before though, where someone
got just so
someone lost their cool in
yeah.
a group where you're like, oh wow, you just look like an ass because you took something personal?
Yeah, and you just lost it. You just lost yourself for a minute there. I can think of a few times. But I mean, man, she was super cool about it. Like she just ate him alive.
Well, he just showed his cards that it was personal.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he definitely.
And you could tell he's been watching a lot of Red Pill because he was like, "You're just masculine.
Threw around.
You're such a masculine woman." I was like, "All right, you know what I mean? That's not one of those things that's not a stone that was thrown like in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, you might have, like, for example, if that was said, it would have to be someone that was like in a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or something, you know, that right. But the way he was throwing that around, I was like, oh, here we go. We know what videos you've been watching, bud. Anyone else have a story they want to share? We can bring you on live right now and invite you into the chat, and you guys can. I wouldn't even say like going through that story too. It's not even that bad.
No, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad because we didn't end up having, you know, I had a flight home, and I think not too soon after, the girlfriend I was talking to, who that even made her more attracted to me, that I had somewhere else to go and someone else to hang out with before I left.
How long after you said that your friend ended up dating this girl that you were staying with?
Probably years later. Okay. But the ironic thing is, I was living somewhere else, so me and that, we were good friends too. I didn't find out till later on through the grapevine, but they were together for a few years, and like I never associated with him.
After that,
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
While they were together, like
Right,
we didn't
right.
go out for drinks or anything like that, so it was never an awkward moment.
right?
But I remember thinking, like, in the back of my head, like, really, like, kind of being shocked a little bit,
Right.
like that one.
Mhm.
But you know what? Maybe it was just me in the moment. You know, maybe that's looking back. The knowledge I have now, it's not that didn't define me. It didn't define her. And if I saw her today, I'd probably take down this video. You know, or I'd probably say, "Hey, how have you been?" You know, I wouldn't
Put weight on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say,
What's
"Oh,
going
remember when you were a psycho with your hamster?" No. Here, hold him. I don't want to hold the hamster. Thanks, son. I'm okay. I've been pretty good. I've been pretty good with peer pressure in my life, and you're not going to get me to hold a hamster that bites.
He's just gonna
And
draw.
he just draws a little bit of blood
Little bit,
sometimes.
dude.
She had like little nicks on her,
Yeah.
on her hand right here. It's like a
Yeah.
little nick. Oh, that's where he got me before. It's like, no, I don't want to play this game. Thank you.
She's scarred.
Yo, Mac, question. What red flags should I be looking for in a girl that does spicy dance work on the
Ooh.
side? When you say spicy dance work,
Is
are
that
we
like
talking pole dancing? Are we
Stripper?
talking stripper? Are we talking
Like a in a club where they're just dancing on stage or something.
or you're like, nah, she merengue? Or what's salsa dance? Salsa dance? Isn't there merengue too? You know what the merengue is?
I don't know what the merengue is, but I know that's a dance. Yeah.
Okay, so that reminds me of the story about. I'll come to your question in a minute, Elle. I promise. But that reminds me of this. Remember, I was telling you that was one of the worst parts of that trip. Actually, is the dinner with the group of friends and the guy from New York, because he was the only other guy at the table, right?
Right.
And like I said, I was like 19, don't have a whole lot of. This guy's 29, he pulls up in a
Experienced.
Benz,
Yeah.
works at the stock exchange. He's 10 years older than,
Right.
8 years older than everybody. He's so fucking. He just came down from New York. I remember he's on the phone and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in fucking Boston right now. Fuck this place." Like just
Right.
a.
Yeah. Like
I'd never been. You know what I mean? I was
Right.
like, so when they were talking about dancing, right?
Mhm.
And then she was like, "Oh, Mac doesn't
Right.
dance." I just remember part of it was someone was like, "Oh, something came up about salsa and merengue." I think isn't merengue a part of salsa or one of those?
I'll have to check Google on that one. I'm not sure.
And he's like, "Fuck yeah, I fucking salsa. Fuck yeah, fuck yeah, I do the merengue." And I thought to myself, "Oh shit,
this is what
I'm in a really tough situation right now." Because
you're gonna have to bust out some salsa.
like in my head, I'm like, "Fuck, man." And I mean, I think luckily that some of the other girls, like they didn't
were-
all know how to do that. Looking back, knowing what I know now about psychology, I think the girl didn't want to go dancing and she threw me under the bus on that one. Right? Yeah, Mac doesn't like to dance. Thanks, hon. Appreciate it. Sure.
Let me be the one to go there. Yeah.
If that was me now, I'd get up and do the Cabbage Patch, man. All right. Pole strip dancing on the side, but she teaches at some dance studios as her main gig. All right.
So she's a stripper. Sounds like, right? Isn't that a stripper?
I mean, I'm not going to tell you what I would look for because we're two different people. I don't think that would be a deal breaker. I think it's definitely something to explore. So I wouldn't say like, oh, just because you're doing some spicy dancing on the side, you're guilty as charged, because there's good money in that. There's some art to it. No joke.
But the environment thing, like you're always
Yeah,
in
like I
the
said,
environment.
pole strip dancing for like a raunchy club.
That's what
Or
I'm
for
saying,
poles, like there's classy pole dancing. Like they have pole dancing here in Thailand where there's classes and stuff on it. So that's what I'd ask.
Mm.
If she's working at one of those places, just know that she's probably dating more than one guy. Secondly, I mean, like I said, that'd be a big thing. Like, where is she working though? Is she working at a place like that?
That's the
Now,
establishment.
I've known women that work at strip clubs or those places doing this work as a coach and stuff. Don't judge them at all. They do tend to have stuff that comes up because of that job and the way they're treated
Right,
there
right.
that puts them on edge,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
The clientele
Yeah,
that comes in sometimes, I can
that puts
imagine.
them on
Yeah.
edge. I don't. If a female told me that, I wouldn't be like, "Oh my god,
Mhm.
you're a hoe."
But you're just dealing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, if she's putting herself in a situation, just like if we were talking about earlier. If you worked at, is that what it's called, Chippendales, where you used to work in Reno? Is it called Chippendales?
There is, there's a chip in. I think
You
it's
were
a
there for a brief time, right?
tryouts. It was just tryouts.
So I'm saying, like, if you put the shoe on the other foot and you
Right.
were like, you're putting yourself in situations where there's a lot of temptation. So
Mhm.
I would say, what's the long game on that? You know, like, is the long game to just get it through school?
Mhm.
How does she actually feel about doing the work herself without you judging her?
Yeah, like, is there an end?
So
Yeah.
ask more questions rather than assume. But if you feel like she's got all this drama from the place she works at all the time, that's not going away.
Yeah, what are you willing to put up with?
And it seems to me the women that are in those venues end up with a lot of guys that don't stay with them. So, and really, to be fair, you're going to have trouble having a long-term relationship if you choose to work there. Now, I know a woman that's done it professionally for years, like gone to cities and different things like that. They're like, well, where would you meet her?
Who is this?
Through coaching.
Okay.
Through
okay.
coaching.
Right.
So it's not through the club or anything like that.
Right.
Very good person.
Mhm.
Has had some
Questionable.
tumultuous, relationships, like her relationships.
Yeah.
And it's like, what kind of guy are you looking for?
Mhm.
Because a lot of guys would just go, yeah, I'm not, like, I'll hook up with you, friends with benefits.
Mhm. Right.
The intimacy is going to be outstanding, but I can't wife you. I can't introduce you to my friends, or I can't trust you.
Right.
So that's where the line gets drawn. And so what happens with that is maybe you come in, L, and you're like, I'm cool with it, hon. I'm totally fine with it. But what happens with her is she's been through so many broken relationships that she doesn't know a good one when she sees one. So the minute you show any kind of, and this is what, when people talk about body counts, I would take it a step further. Like, if someone's had a lot of relationships, I've thought about this before, because there's certain females I've known over the years that they can't keep a boyfriend, but they can get one really easy. Now that someone will be like, well, that's an easy answer. Why? Right? They're fairly good looking, good personality. They usually are women that go on offense, meaning that they're not scared to hit on the guy.
Mhm.
So they're
Which ups the
But here's the thing. They're also very flirtatious. So guys are always thinking they're screwing around, but they don't really filter for a good guy. They just, they're opportunist.
Right.
So they've been in so many relationships. If they get to you, they have a lot of different things going on in their head about relationships, but what they haven't done is specialized in what they're looking for. This is what I always say. Like, figure out what you really want and then filter for that. If you're just going to be an opportunist,
like, their filter's wide open.
right? What are the opportunists in nature? Like raccoons. What are the scavengers, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like rats,
Uh-huh.
right? Where's my next meal? Like, I don't care what it is. What's a specialist? A fucking bald eagle. No pun intended.
Hawk. Yeah.
Right? A fucking beautiful bald eagle.
Right.
They only, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guy is, right? So if you're going to specialize in getting higher quality women or women in a certain bracket, then don't be such an opportunist. But if you're just dating to have a good time, be friends with benefits.
Yeah.
I would need to know a little bit more details about her. But you got to ask yourself this question. Does she want a boyfriend? And you're like, hell no, but we can have some fun. Then there's going to be a beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Brian Eunice says, I don't want anyone to recognize my girl on the street and ask if she's working tonight. Well, tell her to put a disguise on. I'm sure a lot of those girls don't look the same
Probably
outside of where they work.
Probably not.
But here's what's funny about your statement. A promiscuous girl that's had a lot of boyfriends could be the same thing. My point is the girl could be a secretary at a law firm.
Right. And you just are hiding that.
There's some freaks out there that are undercover, B.
Right.
You've known a few. And you're like, no one would know,
Mm-hmm.
but you and the curtains in the hotel room. Right?
Yeah.
But that kind of a woman could be recognized, too, by someone. And you're kind of in an awkward situation. You're like, wow, did you get what I got?
Yeah.
I think there's always a chance of that.
Mm-hmm.
But
They'll be right, though. They probably don't look the same.
everything's, what everything is a trade-off.
Mm.
Like, you're never going to find the perfect situation.
So what's working for you?
It's like, oh, well, here's the positive. She works at she does pole and strip dancing. I'm just going to
Assuming.
guess that intimately she's got some talent.
Mm.
Okay. We'll just leave it at that. That's a major plus. How much do you value that?
Right.
She probably takes care of her body really well if she's going to be exposing herself like that. That's a big plus.
Mm-hmm.
So if those pluses outweigh the idea that she drinks 5 days a week, see, like what's going to outweigh the thing? Where when you start with, I want this, and this, now you got a checklist. We're currently friends with benefits and we both don't want a relationship.
At the moment?
Don't put ATM in there. Careful, man. I'm just wanting to be prepared for the inevitable event where someone eventually catches feelings. Well, it sounds like you might be the first. If you see it first, you might be first.
Yeah.
I think you're in a good situation. Friends with benefits is like this, bud. There's always the possibility of someone caring more than the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, let's just be honest, tell the truth. Who cares more right now? And even with friends with benefits, you kind of know.
You know. You can tell.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, friends with benefits, who's in a
Change.
better position to meet someone else? The pole dancer or the great L?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that's not looked at, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a friends with benefits and your girlfriend works at a strip club, she's got an opportunity to
She's probably got other.
pan for gold,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All day, all night. She's got options all day. And people do this thing where I don't believe this is true. I think this is exaggerated. Clutch, who I really like and respect, one thing that I think is a little bit exaggerated is how many times he believes that women get approached every day. He
Just
said like,
cold approached?
yeah, he's like 30 or 40 times. I forgot what it was. It was a high number. I don't think women get approached like that. Now, if you told me someone works at a strip club in San Francisco or New York,
That might be accurate.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like all women, no.
Mm-mm.
Do I think they get approached more than men? Hell yes. So if you're in a friends with benefits, who's got an opportunity to meet a better friend or a better catch quicker? The one that's in environments that have more options, supply and demand. So keep that part in mind. And I'll add this one little caveat is if the intimacy's really good, which you can go ahead and tell us, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the intimacy? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the attraction? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the connection? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the trust? The trust is probably really low, and that's why you're friends with benefits. But if the intimacy is really high, the guy will most likely catch higher feelings quicker. Don't you think?
Yep.
She usually is the one to initiate contact, but she definitely has more opportunities. Maybe I'm just in her rotation. Well, just make sure you have your own rotation.
Sure.
If you look at it like this, she wants friends with benefits. She's a spicy dancer, right? Okay. Cool. Do you even want, you don't want her as your girlfriend. She would never be your girlfriend. If you can ride on that, then it's fine. The fact that you've asked the question says that you care more.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because now we just brought it to the top. The fact that she initiates it, I think you're in a great position. It seems like you're holding your frame. You're not going out of your way or anything like that. And just make sure you're opening the door for your own options. That's all. But if you were to tell, like, don't go and tell all your friends about this because they're going to give you shit all day, every day. That's the value in talking to me or someone that's non-biased and objective. I'm not going to, you can tell me a lot of stuff and I'm not going to sit there. That's what therapy started with. Guess what was like old school therapy back in like the 1920s? Like
listening.
Confession.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
With rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just confession.
Right.
It's like, think about, like, that's one of the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not really a good form of therapy because there's judgment, because there's a rule book that I'm going, couldn't do that one.
Yeah.
Because the one you're talking to can't even be with women. The priest, right? Like, you can only talk to a man through, like, there's so many parts of that. But at the core of you sharing something like this is like, if you go to like your buddy Al and he's like, oh man, I would never, like, oh God, man, like, she's been with every guy in the street. Like, he's jealous. He's jealous probably. Or he had a bad experience with a stripper or someone else. So he's just imposing all the bad stuff on it. So my thing is like, it's cool. Just know what it is.
And we probably need to see some more information about her or hear a little bit more.
B, he's not going to send a picture, dude. Come on.
You never know.
Nah, I'm joking. But it's one of those situations that probably happens more than I think now too. It's like and it's funny that you said inevitably event where someone eventually catches feelings. It's like in the earlier email today. I don't know if you were on earlier, L. Someone wrote, oh, and then I caught feelings, like he made a mistake. And I'm like, you were dating for 3 months. You're talking to each other. Like, you're embarrassed that you caught feelings. Like, I've heard people say that before. Oh, I caught feelings. That's where I messed up. Like, how do you control that one? If you were seeing each other, that's kind of one of those things that just happens. And someone's saying it's a negative. I would just say when that does happen, take a new inventory of the situation. Take a step back. Instead of declaring your love.
Right. Right.
Man, it makes me think of a friends with benefits situation. Well, this is a good story, actually. I don't know if we have time, though.
Do we have time? I think we got time.
I mean, what is it to catch feelings? That you start to like someone, you start to be into them?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, so what is that? What is that going to do? Think about that for a minute really quick.
You're just vulnerable to maybe, that you could get hurt, I guess. Right?
Every relationship, I suppose, has some vulnerability.
But you go into it, thinking this is just for fun. And
well, the ironic thing is like a lot of relationships, it's like a teeter-totter. Is that what they call the teeter-totter?
Seesaw.
Yeah. So someone's up.
Yeah.
If you're in a 5-year relationship,
there's going to be moments, right? Yeah.
Where it's like a year, there could be, there could be certain moments where you're equal, where you're like this and it goes like that. It goes like that. So a lot of that has to do with, like, Brian Union's like attachment, all that other stuff has to do with what you saw when you were young. If one of your family members left when you were young, you're going to be triggered by that and worry about those kinds of things. And that's where you kind of need to go to work on that and accept that that's who you are. And this is what happens when you do the work on that. Instead of saying I'm social attachment such and such, you can say this is how I am. But what you need to learn to do is be able to slow down time. So when you could catch that you're feeling that way, where you're like, I'm really scared, I'm too attached right now. And then have some kind of thing that you can do where you can calm your nerves and go, all right, it's just me overreacting
in the moment.
Right. Not gonna lie, I've considered pursuing further, but there you go, L.
We got it.
I've been doing this a long time, man. Don't let the fucking Hawaiian shirt fool you. I'm a fucking professional, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's
Seriously.
that's what's holding.
I've considered pursuing further, but what comes with her side job is holding me back from thinking of her more seriously.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you this. How long's it been? Did you write? You didn't write 3 months, 6 months. I would just be curious. Like, this is where when you talk, like, how often have you been seeing each other? It's like once a week, 2 times a week, because she calls first.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
she's controlling the relationship. Right. And yeah, you're in a vulnerable situation, to be honest, because if you went like, hey, I'd like to make it more than that, she's the one like, calling you right now and says she doesn't want a relationship.
Right. That's why it's scary to catch those feelings, man.
I wouldn't be like, this is just different people.
Mm-hmm.
This is where if you have, this is where you go, I just wouldn't make a stripper. And I'm not going to say she's a stripper because you're saying she's a pole dancer, something, strip dancing, you said.
Yeah.
Would never make that my girlfriend. So if that's just in your head,
then, man.
Like, I would never smoke crack cocaine. It'll never happen. Mm-hmm. I'm confident in that. It's done. I've actually never even seen it, but I wouldn't do it, right? Like, this would be one where you're like, do you want to make that your rule? Because you're putting yourself in a tough situation. Unless she was like, oh, I'm just doing this till college ends and I'm going to...
There's like a finish line to it.
It's still tough though, man. It's still tough. So I would just ride the wave and just be aware. And, worst case scenario, someone's like, oh, I wasted my time. I should have never done that. It's like, actually, you got some really good intimate moments out of it, probably. Mm-hmm. So don't blame yourself.
Right.
I forgot the story I was going to get to. What was I talking about? I lost my track on that one.
Okay, so it's been a year. They've been together for
7 times in a year.
So
that seems like a distance friends with benefits.
Yeah, so it's not hooking up all the time, but here and there.
So was it like 5 times in 2 months and then 2 times in the last 8
Spread
months?
Out evenly? Was it, yeah.
Is it always when she's been drinking? Is there a trigger there? So I'd say that's pretty cool. But I mean, that's pretty good. But here's what I would add. If it's been a year and you want to initiate at some point, make sure you got some sign, but just anticipate if it doesn't work, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I knew a guy years back that came to me that their intimacy's at a 9. Wow. Don't give her the 10. That's still an A. Right? Yeah. 90% is always an A in the grade book, man. You can get a 95, it's usually still an A.
That's right.
If it was your girl, you'd be like, it's an 11.
That's right.
Yeah, this guy, they weren't friends with benefits, but they were friends for like 5 years.
So no benefits, just friends for 5 years.
And then, I don't know if I've ever told you this one. This is kind of crazy. But he said that I didn't know if I liked her or not. We spent a lot of time together. We were best friends. Da da da. And he goes, and then she made a joke. What if I just blew you right now on that chair? And he was like this to him was like his opening of like, what do I do?
Okay.
Like, it excited him. Mm-hmm. He got all, and he like played it off. Like, so he said, like, after she said that to him, it really bothered him because he was like, okay, like, she must have interest, which in that moment, maybe call a Freudian slip. Like, usually every joke's half true. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
Unless, yeah.
Some are just blatantly wrong, but most of them are half true.
If this was like out of character and she never,
like she was before, like, what if I just put you on that chair and blew you right now? And he was like,
whoa, okay.
right?
Right.
He told me the story. So like
Uh-huh.
for 2 weeks, he was like really bothered for it.
He was
So then he-
spinning. Okay.
So then he confronted her.
Mhm.
He confronted her and he was like, look, what you said to me 2 weeks ago, I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I think we should
start
start a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God, I was just joking. And it crushed him.
Yeah, because he was sitting on it for a while too.
And I was like, so the 10 people on deck, what would be the approach
What should he?
because I don't think that it wasn't possible that she maybe was having some kind of attraction. She just didn't want to go 0 to 100 on,
Mhm.
we're not going to be together now. But I
Right.
said, next time if that situation happens, maybe like go out to dinner and maybe have a couple drinks and like go back to your house and like have some music and then
Yeah.
like make a move. Don't announce
Don't just say
that
it.
we're gonna be together.
Right.
It was just like
Oh, that's a little too
right. And then I
Especially
go, and then
after
if you hook up,
Mhm.
then you'll know like what's next. Like hang out again and we'll see what happens.
Especially after things have cooled off a
And
bit,
she was
2
like
weeks.
texting him like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I
Right.
was just joking," which
Right.
is like a hard fall. So then he was embarrassed.
Right, because that's his friend too. I mean,
Right. And so they ended up like not being friends anymore.
that
It was a
fucked
big
with-
deal. Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes that happens where you're afraid to, you don't want to fuck up the relationship if it's a really good friend of yours. I think that happens a lot.
I mean, this is where people say, guys can't be friends with women.
I've had close friends.
Yeah,
that
I've
were
talked
girls.
about it before.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be moments where I've been attracted to those friends, but I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
Those girlfriends or friends, girls. But yeah, it was a train wreck of a move.
Where you just are like, okay, let's do this.
Well, you already did it. So
Yeah.
it was like, all right.
Mm.
That's where why are you trying to create a full-on relationship when you haven't had intimacy yet? And then, come to find out we were talking more. He doesn't drink, so that wasn't something that
Mhm.
when I suggested that, I'm like, all right, I get it. But yeah, I said, yeah, she probably has some kind of interest. And in that moment, she was half telling the truth, but maybe she wasn't going to act on it.
Right.
Maybe she was attracted to you, but
Mhm.
you going to the point where you're like, we should be together instead of actually finding a way to hook up first. And,
Yeah.
sometimes you can hook up with a friend and it's totally awkward. So
Mhm.
she might have, it might not have worked out. It might not have been all right, but that was one of those ones where I thought, that's where the friends with benefits, but they weren't friends with benefits yet, where you misconstrue or misunderstand situations because you want to believe something.
Right.
And this is where you're always at a disadvantage when you're the one that cares less. And you can't,
No advantage when you care less, right?
yeah, you can't switch the tables by suggesting commitment. Because the person in charge,
They're gonna be the decider of that.
right, they don't want to lose that leverage. So when you're like, oh, we'll just,
Because that's your choice now. Like you're saying, let's do this, and yeah.
it sounds very Corey Wayne, right? Could have invited her over, make some dinner, have a nice bottle of wine, watch a movie,
Yeah.
see if she's a cat,
Well,
and see where the night goes. Yeah, that
sounds
that's kind of what I was saying.
right.
And I'm not someone that's like, oh, you have to have drinks, but like having a couple glasses of wine or a drink, it does help loosen things up for people. I'm not talking about getting wrecked.
Just sloppy.
Yeah, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it does help.
For sure.
But if you're not up for that, no.
Or you're
Like
not a
that's
drinker,
exactly what I
yeah.
meant. I was like,
Mhm.
why didn't you create a date situation and make a move?
Mhm.
And I think that it's funny because I was just seeing someone interviewed recently with some kind of entrepreneur tycoon. I think he was the owner of Kinko's.
Oh, the copy place?
Yeah, I think you know that.
Yeah.
And he was like, my mother told me that in your 20s, you care what everyone thinks. You care what everyone thinks. In your 30s, you still do a little bit. He goes, you get to your 40s, you don't care as much what people think. Now, and he goes, that's when you can really make money and do business and make moves. And
I've
stuff
heard that
like
before too.
You've heard that before?
By teachers and stuff have told me that. Yeah.
And if you think about it, like when you have grandparents,
Mhm.
don't give a fuck about shit,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
someone in their 70s or 80s, there's not many insecure senior citizens that are 70 or 80 years old that are like, you said that about me. I can't believe you.
Right? They're like, okay,
You don't like my shirt? It's like, you don't like my shirt, huh? Well, don't buy one.
Yep.
Had this shirt for 40 years and I love it, right? So my point about that is it gets easier when you don't care as much to make that move. What you're trying to do is when you're trying to eliminate heartbreak or being rejected.
because you're not losing that much.
Yeah, you're not like, you realize as you get older, it's like if you say no, it's just clarity.
It's just clarity, yeah.
But it doesn't hurt as much. It really doesn't. You got to figure out what's your block on that. But yeah, that ended up a little bit weird because he was like, she said that to me though. She said that to me. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. And it could have been in the moment. I said, you would have been better off in that moment sitting in the chair and going, show me.
Right.
And he was like, really? I'm like, I'm not saying, but at least you would have escalated the situation to see where.
And it might have been awkward, might have not. You would have.
But also, like, she was being playful, and you took it to be serious.
Right.
you took it to like, I think we should work on our relationship, and possibly, and it was like,
took it to a whole new level.
right, 0 to 100,
0 to 100.
too quick. Thanks for contributing today, El Segundo. Any closing questions? 11 on deck. Does anyone have any questions for random relationship question scenarios? You got a question, B? Random?
For a friend.
Yeah, for a friend. Yeah, good one. Yeah, I've had that happen many times. Actually, this is for a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do you really care that much about your friend that you're going to go, well, they would never come on your show, or
and I'm just,
I told them to ask you, but
no, I enjoyed hearing those stories. Those are good.
there's always, then that's why I always say go on bad dates for good stories. Asking for a friend. Thanks, BU. Absolutely. Thanks, Al. I appreciate it, bro. Where you at in the world again? A friend of mine was just telling me this recently that he was married actually, and they had broken up, and they had been together like 10 or 11 years.
Long time.
Yeah. And he had said that they like started talking again and stuff, and then they hooked up afterwards, and he was like, it was like, he goes, it wasn't there for both of us. Like he knew.
Gone. It was gone.
Yeah. So I definitely think, Brian, that can happen. I've actually had it in a relationship that I was in, that at the end of a relationship before we broke up, I could feel like when we were hooking up, it just
wasn't there. The magic wasn't there.
Tejas, is that Texas?
Texas, yeah.
Okay. I would definitely say that that's true. And I don't think that, and that's why I always tell people post breakup, just go out first, because you might be surprised that you both don't feel the same. But that being said, you also can hook up and it could be absolute clarity that you should have, you know what I mean? That's really the goal when you get back together. It's not getting back together as boyfriend, girlfriend. It's getting back to having just one intimate moment where you connect again and see how it goes. Because you can kind of, when you're trying to repatch something up, or if you get back together, you usually know the first or second time you meet up if it's reciprocal, meaning the other person is at least neutral to happy to see you. if they're kind of
Right. Standoffish.
vague,
Mhm.
awkward, off, you're
Should
not
be
going to
able
be
to-
able to like, hey, let me turn that around.
Right.
And that's your clarity. That's all. Why would that be damn?
Elaborate.
I mean, it would be a positive if you both didn't get good feelings from the hookup to at least know where you
Yeah,
stand,
then you know.
right? Because that it takes two to make that kind of that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was standoffish when we last saw each other, but she said if she acted more than that, she would be leading me on.
She's honest.
Well, then that, you know what that tells you? She just needs more time to process where she's at. And that's, give her points. This is a big thing that Corey Wayne talks about. Women are very emotional, and that's how she felt in that moment. And you respecting that and leaving her alone for a little bit, it doesn't mean that in a month or 2 months she doesn't see someone with an edible bouquet. Is that what you got? One of those
edible arrangements?
edible arrangements,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Oh my god, I remember when I got
There
one
we
of
go.
those." And then the emotions change. The main thing is you don't want to be the traveling salesman that's trying to convince her to change her mind.
She has to kind of do it
Come to the conclusion on her
organically,
own,
yeah.
or there's enough time that she's been able to process that she doesn't feel as strong about this
Sure.
opinion. So, sometimes I think one of the things that's underrated, I've told B this before, is that if you're post breakup and the individual, for females too, because you think this is more for males,
Mhm.
if she's really attracted to you, it helps.
Yep.
If your intimacy was good and you kind of know when someone's
Mhm.
attracted to you on a higher level, it's not like just a connection. If they're really attracted to you, and they're upset about your behavior or some other things, attraction's going to help push the scales if you're going to hook up again. Doesn't mean it's everything.
Right.
But I think a lot of times you just think it's for men, but for
Mhm.
women too. There's
Definitely, for sure. Yeah.
there's clients of mine that I've had that are good with women, guys that get women easily, and they're like, I'm like, and she said to me at the end that she still loves me and cares about me. She just can't be with me, and she still thinks I'm so handsome,
Mhm.
this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, those are really good things to leave on.
Yeah.
Those are,
Mhm.
so that's a long answer that I'll make. Why did you move to Thailand?
There are not a lot of hamsters in Thailand. I can already tell you that right now.
Beautiful beaches, and great weather, low cost of living, actually.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean,
Very
just
nice
getting over
people.
here-
Very nice
Yeah.
people. Yeah, it's been great.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm thankful for living here.
Yeah, the
So-
most expensive thing is just getting here.
Yeah,
flight.
good point. It's about to get really crowded. I think there's more people moving here.
Yeah.
Post COVID, that's for sure. But yeah, the movie The Beach is very close to where I live. If you ever seen that
Mhm.
one, so it's I always wanted to live by the beach, and I lived by the beach in San Diego. I guess the Bay Area.
We have
Yeah.
it, but it's not the same.
I used to like going there, but
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty close.
Like going to Santa Cruz,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. So it's been good. It's been grand. Thank you so much. I think this has been a good one. L, hands down, my favorite relationship breakup coach. I'll take that. I'll stamp it. Go ahead.
Stamped.
Brian Union. Thank you, bud. Hang in there, bud. The great Justin Brown, not to be confused with the great
JB.
James Brown.
JB.
Rob IS was a little bit quiet today. Maybe
He was here.
I have a feeling Rob was like, I've heard these stories before. God damn it. I know every one of these, Mac. You got to have some new
content.
Yeah, I get it, Rob. It's okay, bud. Thanks for riding. Rye Flint. Silence is golden sometimes, right?
Don't pick
Sam-
on her. Don't pick on her because she's working. All right.
I'm not picking on her. I'm just saying silence is golden. Odd car somewhere as I wanted to move to San Antonio. Well, they got a hell of a basketball team. I'll leave it at that. Nice weather, low price of house. I don't know anything else much about it. San Antonio. You too, El.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you go from Norway, San Marcos, California,
San Marcos?
or is that Texas? There's a San Marcos in
Yeah.
near San Diego. I would probably tell you, Odd Carlo, the place that I've gotten the most good reviews for guys that are single and ready to mingle is Austin. I mean, now maybe that's
the number
a
one, I think
maybe that's
Texas.
I already knew about that place or whatever. I've actually had clients that live there and love it.
Seems like a pretty cool place to live.
Yeah, and
Like music, comedy, like there's a lot of things to do down there. Art.
I don't know if it's San Marcos, Texas. I'm sure there might be a San Marcos in Texas, but San Marcos is I believe outside of San Diego. But I would also say, Odd Carlo, how old are you again? I mean, if it was me and I don't have the vast experience of living everywhere in America, because
It's a pretty big place.
yeah, I'd go San Diego. So that's the best place I ever lived.
It's expensive to live there. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it is, but I mean, weather-wise,
Weather's
the
probably
beach,
one of the best, yeah.
the people are. I mean, met a lot of people that live there. Everyone loves San Diego. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. I would pick that, but I mean, I haven't been to those places in Texas, so I wouldn't. If you
Just
put
hear
it
it
22,
secondhand.
yeah, San Diego. Oh
Dude,
yeah, man.
Dude, go.
I would say anywhere you want to go, make sure you're close to university scene because that's
Well, if you're that age, yeah. That's
right.
That's the
So
place.
Austin, Texas, I think there's a lot of
They've-
universities.
Yeah, they've got a bunch.
It's a
Okay.
little south of Austin. Okay.
Okay.
So
Close then.
like I said, because you got Spanish names for a lot of your places, just like Cali. Maybe it is, but like, yeah, I've had 2 or 3 clients in their early 20s that love Austin. Actually, I've had a couple clients recently that told me that they lived in DC.
Okay.
They were more established, but they said the dating scene was great. Major cities just have more options,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. There's going to be
So-
places, yeah.
I'd consider that.
But Texas just seems like a popular place to go.
It's where everyone's moving. Yeah, I
Yep.
don't know about the. I mean, Al, if I were you, I'd maybe consider Thailand too. I don't know. What are you looking for?
Yeah, what are
you
you
know what I
looking
mean? Are you looking for work, or right now that everything's open up, there's a ton of people moving here, working online. So if that's your thing,
I think that's the big one.
yeah,
Like this is a pretty good place to be if you're able to work on a computer.
yep, absolutely. 22, what an age, man. What an age.
If you could just go back.
22 and sick of it all. Remember someone told me that I'm just 22 and sick of it all.
Really?
It's they make tons of money and drive fast cars. Sounds like a Andrew Tate video. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, go for it.
Oh yeah, Cambodia.
I haven't heard much about Cambodia recently, but I wouldn't put it in the same bracket as Thailand.
I think it's cheaper than Thailand. to
It
be
is,
honest.
but it's also,
a little more sketchy. Maybe, I don't know.
I haven't lived there, so I'm not going to speak on it.
I won't say
but
that. I won't say that either. But I don't know.
I haven't lived there, but I've heard some stories.
I've
Yeah,
heard some
I don't-
good stories though. I've heard like people having fun. So
Yeah. That's like when people tell secondhand stories about
Yeah.
Thailand all the time. I'm like, okay,
I haven't been.
where'd you see that one?
Yeah, I haven't been to Cambodia, so
But I think the visa situation there was
A lot
easier in
easier.
the past,
yeah.
so that was a draw. But there's going to be places all over now that people can work from the internet
They're
that
gonna try
are
to
going to be
attract.
flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob Isis said good stories.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll save that for another podcast or whatever, for another stream. I've heard some good stories, I suppose. Yeah, I know. I've never been, so that would
I've
be
never
a
been.
complete.
I mean, I've been to
People
Vietnam.
just assume because they're like, "Oh, you've probably been to all
Yeah.
those." Nope, not really. Where I live, so beautiful. In 15 minutes, I'm about to go on a hike in the mountains. I think I have one video where I'm up there, but
Take your phone with you. Do
do a live
a
stream
live
there.
stream,
Sure,
or
man.
not a live stream, but do a video or something.
Be that person in the forest, like. It's one of those. I know a lot of people do it too, and I'm like living where I live, seeing the amount of people that are on the beach or
that are doing.
Yeah, that they're on vacation. Like,
Yeah.
And you drive by. You know what I do
Dude.
on the motorbike? I'm like, yeah, like in the background. Yeah, man. He's like,
Dude, I've looked at like one video on YouTube about, people just traveling around Phuket, and now I get like 100 videos popped up of, people that are.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
Thailand videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it inexpensive for you to go there from Thailand?
I would say yes.
Yeah, probably.
Comparative to the
And then you got to
US,
just
dude,
deal with visa and coming back over. But I'm honestly one of those people. It's an ironic thing. I was just having lunch with a friend today, and she was talking about going to Singapore, and I
just
was
went
like,
to
I have no interest.
Malaysia, the ticket was like.
I was like, you know what's
$50.
ironic? I don't like to travel that much.
Oh yeah.
I like to live where people go on vacation, so I don't have to.
Mhm.
So someone would be like, "Oh, you must be a travel." No, not really.
I found the spot.
Yeah.
Stay.
Yeah, fucking shipwrecked and happy with it. And it's like, I don't like spending lots of times at airports or. It's like, remember when in front of my house is like the entrance to a hotel.
So
Not a hotel, like
a
they're
villa,
like pool villas.
Yeah,
It's
nice
different.
villas. Yeah.
And there's like 8 people that get out of the car. They're all talking. And I'm like, it looks like Amazing Race in front of my house. And you came outside, you're like, yeah,
100%.
backpacks, shoes. I'm like, it doesn't even look like fun. Is that your style of traveling, B?
No, but you know what? I'm a little bit different. I do like to be in airports and stuff. I don't know why. I like to people watch and just be like in a different place.
Oh, people watch at the coffee shop,
No,
man.
yes, but I mean, I don't know. I just like being in different places. I don't know. It's weird.
Different strokes for different folks.
Not all the time, though. Not all the time.
All right, folks. See ya.
See ya later, guys.